Sawabona family, today in the classroom, we are celebrating Pride and we are really happy about it. Welcome to the Critically Conscious Classroom.
Welcome, everyone. Yes, it is June. It is Pride Month. And if you didn't know the history of Pride Month, we're going to talk about it. So coming up next, we have the one and only Dr. Julie Vitale. So let's get her on because the Critically Conscious Classroom is next.
Microphone check 1 2 1 2. Welcome to the Critically Conscious Classroom, reporting to you live from Miwok and Nisenan unceded territory. I'm one of your co-hosts as well as the AXA Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, Anthony Robinson.
And I'm Dr. Tracie Noriega, Senior Director of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Professional Learning Services, here reporting to you live, and want to thank Anthony, our producers, our guest, for shifting the time today, right? Because we've been talking about rest. Rest happens in different ways. Our executive director, Dr. Edgar Zazueta, planned an outing for AXA staff today. So, hey, I'm ready. I am a Giants fan for sure. I am definitely a Bay Area fan, and I know the A's aren't in the Bay anymore, and that's a whole other story. But today, I'll represent. I'll represent, and and get our A's cheers on. We'll see.
Yeah, and we won't have a sports conversation on how a Giants fan is wearing an A's hat, but that's all right. Like you said, they're no longer in the Bay Area. They're here in my hometown, Sacramento. So very excited about going to the game today and cheering on the A's. Dr. Noriega, it's been 2 weeks since we've seen each other. 2 weeks since we've seen our people. We need to see who's in the chat today. So we told you all that we're reporting live from Nisenan in Miwok territory. Where you all coming in from? Light up the chat for us. As a reminder, since we are on YouTube currently, it's not like we operated on StreamYard. So you will have to sign in to YouTube in order to comment back to us. So if you haven't, please sign in or sign up so that you can talk to us. But Dr. Noriega, how's your week been so far?
My week has been pretty good.
Good.
I know folks are winding down the school year. I know I've said before that my most favorite day out of the school year is the first day of school. But my second are the graduations, the promotion ceremonies, and then sending the babies off to their next adventure, whether it's a little bit more school or a little bit more learning in different ways, right? Because we don't always learn the things that we need to know in the classroom. But getting to see graduation, that's also fun too. So it's been a little quiet here at the AXA office because I know all of our members are busy with end of the school year things. So just wishing everyone a wonderful end of the year and hopefully a restful summer. How are you doing, Dr. Robinson?
I'm really good. I'm really good. Both of my children are done with school. My children are in the Thomas Unified in Sacramento. They ended school really early, so just trying to get the summer in full swing. My son is already in summer programming. My daughter actually has an internship that she starts next week. I'm really excited about that. So yeah, just doing the preteen and teenage dad summer work. But yeah, really excited.
Good. I'm excited for you.
It's almost over.
Shout out to Mary Stark from Santa Barbara. Neri, yes.
Neri, yeah. Waiting on you.
Thank you, Neri, for being our, number one fan. So glad you are here today.
Yeah.
So we have an amazing guest. And let me talk about June as Pride Month real quick. And, folks say, why June, right? Why is June Pride Month? And it really comes from the the memorializing of the Stonewall riots, right? A series of protests and police raids in Stonewall, New York City. So that really was a turning point in the LGBTQ plus rights movement. And so I think that, again, it happened in June of 1969, so a number of years ago. And since then, right, when we talk about Pride, when we talk about this movement, there's so many things that have happened, and there continue to be attacks. So I'm just really glad that AXA is supporting our students from the LGBTQ plus community, our administrators that are of the community. We have a number of co-conspirators and allies. If you didn't know, we started an LGBTQ plus network this year. And it's a place where, again, folks can be in community with each other. We talk through a number of issues. We actually are creating a mini strategic plan, if you will, so that we can make sure that our work is more focused moving forward. And I want to say that our guest, the one and only amazing Dr. Julie Vitale from Oceanside Unified School District, she was one of the first folks that I met coming onto this position. Actually, I'd met Julie before, but as a region president, officer, et cetera. But coming onto this position, Julie was one of the most prominent leaders in terms of pushing and encouraging and supporting all of our work. Julie actually started our Lead with Pride summit in the city of Oceanside. What was it, 4 years ago, right? We're coming on the 5th anniversary of that in this next year. And then she's always been, kind of my go-to, not kind of, but definitely my go-to when it comes to working through what's happening out there, what can we do to do better. So I just want to thank Julie for being a guest today and helping us to bring more awareness, right? But when we say critically conscious, we also mean action.
Right.
Hello.
There she is.
There she is. That was quick. Welcome, Dr. Vitale. Welcome to the Critically Conscious Classroom. Thank you for being with us today.
For having me.
Yeah, thank you for being here. Should we just get into it? Yeah.
I mean, unless you have more of a story, I'm ready to jump right in.
Well, I have stories. I definitely gave Julie some flowers. I can give her some more. If you are interested in reading Julie's story, she is also a published author. This book is The Intersectionality and Leading Social Change in Education, published by Routledge. So if you want to check out Julie's story, it is here. Also, Julie last year at our Women's Leadership Forum presented this beautiful session on her life using the lyrics of Pink, artist Pink. And I thought that was just so absolutely creative. It really, I love music. I love looking at lyrics. I love analyzing them. And so I immediately had this connection to Julie and what she presented. So much so that when she actually showed the cover of a Pink album, I don't know Pink, but I do know Human, the artist. So I was able to grab an autograph from Allison Human Torneros to gift Julie with. So I'm so glad that you are here with us today.
Yes.
And that was an amazing gift. And I just want to thank you again for that. So special. Thank you.
You're welcome. First question. All right, I'm just going to jump into it.
Yeah, jump in.
Okay. What was your experience like coming out after beginning your career in education, and how did it affect your professional identity and relationships?
Yeah, Tracie, thanks for starting with that softball question. I really appreciate that. I think it's my light went out, so someone's in here trying to fix it, but it might not get fixed. Oh, look, already in the light. Thank you, Tom. Appreciate that. It's definitely been quite a journey, and I didn't actually come out in the beginning of my career. I was a teacher and an assistant principal and a coordinator and a principal and all in one district. And in that district, I never felt safe to come out. That was about what now? 20 years ago. I mean, I was in that district for 20 years, but I never felt safe in that district to be out. And it wasn't until I became a superintendent that I knew I needed to come out because it's a very different job, and you work with a board of education. And I thought it was critically important for them to, one, know me in totality as a person, and they would have to be able to know that I'm gay, because that's how I'm going to need to live. So let's see, I was 40 at that point when I made that decision to become a superintendent. My math might be off a little bit, 42, 43. So that's really when I started knowing that I needed to come out. And prior to that, and when I talk about this with people, I do believe it was limiting to me as a leader to not be out before that. So I was a high school principal, which is a very critical position in a school district. And I always felt that I was hiding part of who I am, because I was, right? I was in the closet. I was hiding my relationships. I was hiding what I did on the weekends. I would always talk in very vague terms about who I did stuff with. And when you do that, you're just not your full self, and you don't bring your full, I call it your full light to your job, to your career, to your daily interactions. And since I've been able to be honest and open about who I am, I feel much lighter and free to use whatever language I need to use. And I can talk about my spouse. People know my spouse. People like my spouse. And she is a definite value add to me as a person, and even, as a superintendent. And I think when people get to know her, they feel like they get to know me even a little bit better. And there's nothing that I'm hiding now. There's no I don't want to use the word cagey, but I'm going to use the word cagey. Like what, I feel like I know her, but I don't really know her. And now it's like, I'll talk about whatever in my personal life, not too much, obviously, but I'll talk about my personal life, what I did on the weekends, where we're going on vacation. And I'm a more full and complete person. I feel that, and I express that. And I think that's how it's made it a complete, that's how it's really affected my career. I believe I'm a more complete, open, approachable person now, because I'm not hiding any part of who I am. Does that make sense? Because I don't always know if that translates to people that don't have that lived experience. And what I don't still know about myself, and I talk about this too, is I don't know if I'm a private person or if I just got used to hiding who I am so much. I don't naturally like to talk about myself or what I do on the weekends or the evenings. It's very hard for me still, even though I'm being very open. So I don't know if that makes sense, but it has made me a more complete, open person, being able to be out and honest and open about who I am.
Definitely. Thank you, Dr. Vitale. So I really appreciated about what you said in relation to when you decided to become a superintendent. That's when you knew, it was time for you to come out. So I want to kind of take you back to that moment. And I know that part of that story is you actually came out to your school board. So if we could travel back, those 2 decades or so, can you share with us that day, how you were feeling that day, but more importantly, when you came out to your school board, what was the response? And not just from the board, but what was your response after you actually, came out to them?
Yeah. Let me share 2 different stories. I had to do that on 2 different occasions, and the outcomes were a little bit different, and I think they're actually quite interesting. So in my first position, when I wanted to come out, I was the finalist, and the board came and did a visit to just verify and validate. It's called a validation visit. They come, they meet a parade of people that support you. They ask a lot of questions just to affirm that all the interview process has been what they believed it to be. So it was 2 board members, and we're doing a debrief at the end of the day. And I had known all the way through the interview process, I'm like, I gotta find a way to tell them who I am, because honestly, if they didn't want a gay superintendent, I didn't want to be there, because I wasn't going to live closeted anymore. And it wasn't going to be a lawsuit. I wasn't going to hold them accountable. Like, you just need to know who I am. So anyway, we're doing the debrief, and they just very clearly said, Julie, today was a great day. The people who came through, lots of positive things. The whole interview process has been positive. But there are 2 people out there who really just say you would be a superintendent and just highly recommend that we don't hire you. And I said, okay, yeah, I understand that. And I said, I know who those 2 people are, and I know why. And they said, okay, tell us. And so I said the 2 people's names. And then this story changes a little bit, but this is how I remember it today. So, because this is really what I said, that just words have changed a little bit. So I said, look, if you're looking for someone who is just going to acquiesce to what you want and what you believe, how things should go, then I am not your girl, because I have opinions, I have experience, I'll work with staff, but I'm not just going to acquiesce to whatever it is that you say. I'm not that person. And then I said, also, if you need, and this is truly why these 2 people, like, they didn't like that I spoke up in my role that I worked for them in. They didn't like that I had a mind of my own. They didn't like that I was a very strong personality, which I still am, by the way, which I think is also a value add. Okay, then the next thing was they liked very petite women, which I am not. And I said, look, in most years, I am a size 16. I'll tell you, I'm a size 14. And in reality, I'm going to hover most really around a size 18. So if you want a size 2, I am not your girl, nor will I ever be. And then I said, another reason is I am married to a woman. So if you're looking for me to be married to a man, that is not going to happen. And so I still didn't have the strength in those moments to say I'm gay, just because I was still in my process of coming out. So they just kind of like smiled and said, thank you very much. And then the next day I got the call and the offer from the president. And what I found out in my very first meeting with one of those board members that came to do that validation visit, she's gay. A long-term relationship. And she was blown away that I said that in an interview. And she instantly knew that those 2 people were ridiculous. She understood why they were speaking against me. And they couldn't have been more proud to have me as their superintendent. And they all 5 felt that way. And then even when board members changed out, one of the first things they did was affirm me as a person. And again, clearly would tell me stories about their own family members, their own friends, which is what people do to help, I believe, to help me feel more comfortable with them. Now, that was my first superintendency. The second superintendency, a little different. So I've been out for 5 years, advocacy, doing all the things, pretty very open about everything. So when I interviewed for Oceanside, at this point, I was kind of tired of coming out. I don't know if my other LGBT folks feel that way, but I get a little tired of it. I get a little worn out. It's like, come on, man, do I really got to tell you? Sometimes I just want to say, like how Ellen did on the cover of, I think it was Newsweek or Time, Yes, I Am. I just wish we had like a universal, like I could just say, yes, I am. I don't know, with the pride flag behind it, whatever. Anyway, so I talked to the search firm. I was the finalist. I was their candidate. They were, I was their one person. They were all about me. And then I made the search firm do it. And I asked one of the lead search firm agents if he would please tell them. And I said, look, no harm, no foul. If they don't want me after they find out, I'm very fine with that. I'm not going to sue them. But I'm sick of telling people, could you just please do it for me? Which sounds like a little cop-out, but it's where I was at the time. And so he did tell them. And then the 5-0 turned into a 4-1. And I was very fine with that because I still had a majority. I still wanted to come to Oceanside. And what's been interesting is that one vote, that person left the board. I got hired in July. That person was off the board because of redistricting in December, and then has spent the last 5 years trying to get me removed from this position. So that's been a fun, interesting situation that with all the nonsense around CRT and ethnic studies and anti-LGBTQ legislation, those are all platforms that person tries to lead a group of others to come to board meetings and be unsupportive of our work to support LGBTQ students and staff, our ethnic studies requirement, and on and on. But, I'm fine with it. She's no longer on the board, and freedom of speech allows her to say whatever she wants at those meetings. And so truly what doesn't kill us makes us stronger, and it adds to my story. So it's like, hey, I'm good. Keep coming at me, and I'll just keep being who I am. And I'm fine with that.
I think that's just such there's so much packed in there. I really admire your honesty, your strength, and the fact that you are who you are, and you are absolutely open about everything. And I also love the context, right? Because it's rare that we can be our most authentic selves, and totally be accepted. So I think that it's part of our job as educational leaders to help create those conditions. And what you've been doing in terms of being a role model, right? Also being an advocate, also doing so much work, right? To push agendas forward. I truly appreciate it. And I will just say, Oceanside, you are doing some amazing work with liberatory ethnic studies. And I'll also say that if you are not addressing systemic racism and having conversations about oppression, it's not ethnic studies, folks. If you have a question about that, please come talk to me. Right? You're just not doing ethnic studies if you're only doing what Dr. Montaño says when she says food and folklorico. Studies. So,
yep.
But when it comes to setting conditions, and again, you've been a huge part of our AXA work when it comes to our LGBTQ plus focus, right, and our priorities. What can you say in terms of creating environments, right? How can us as educational leaders intentionally create those environments where LGBTQ plus staff don't just survive, they thrive mentally, emotionally, professionally?
Yeah, we've really been focused on that here, and I get criticized for that a lot because then, we're accused of only caring about gay students because I'm gay, which is just unbelievably ridiculous. But I feel very strongly that we have to intentionally and openly and using words support this community, because we can be a very hidden community. There are no required metrics in the state of California or nationally that track the progress of LGBTQ youth. There are add-ons that we can do, right, through the California Healthy Kids Survey, through maybe Panorama Survey and other data that we can collect, but nothing's required. So, I say we're like a hidden demographic. We're in the closet, and we can be, and our kids can be, and our staff can be. So what I recommend, and what we started with in Oceanside, are board policies. In California, we are completely protected in as far as being employees and also our students. And there are recommended policies through the California School Board Association that delineate how we can protect students and staff. So there are policies for personnel that are very, very explicit and inclusive. And what I appreciate about California law and board policies that are updated through CSBA legal team is that their language often changes just to ensure that they are the most inclusive. So like if you went to our website and checked out those policies, I would guarantee you that it's the most updated language that CSBA offers to be completely inclusive. So I think that's a place to start. And I think that's a very open and honest place. And then that's when you know that you have the board support. And then with board support, everything else is completely possible. And I know, sadly, right now, a lot of districts don't have boards that are interested in following California education code, and they want to invoke these forced outing policies. And now we have these ridiculous let's protect girls sports made up policies that are just coming from an agenda of hate from the national level. And in fact, and I might deviate, Tracy, and so I apologize for that, but in California, CIF has had rules that have governed transgender athletics for over a decade. So California has been on the front of this work for a very long time. Okay, but back to your question. Start with policies. So leadership in language, right? That's the board leadership, that's the superintendent leadership. Because if you actually call out that it's okay to be these things, and then you support it with language and actions, that word gets around to people. In ethnic studies, it's definitely a component of the work that we do. We've also invoked the FAIR Act, right? Fair, accurate, inclusive, and respectful, which requires us to teach about LGBTQ people who have impacted our world, our country, our state. So that's embedded, and that's an ongoing work in progress, right? I cannot tell you that all of the teachers are teaching those lessons, even though they curated the lessons, but I can tell you that those exist, and that's something that is embedded in our curriculum, and we constantly strive to do, because the FAIR Act also includes women's history. It also includes African American history, to try and not just teach about the I call it the straight white men. It might not be the politically correct term, so I apologize for that. But that's whose history we've taught historically. That's the history that I grew up on. I'm sure it's the history that most people on this call have grew up on, who grew up on, and we can do better than that. And in fact, we're required to. So we can also support gender sexuality alliances on our campuses in middle schools and high schools, and even elementary schools have started to grow out what are called rainbow clubs. And we can support the formation of those groups, because kids are allowed to form any clubs that they want to form. And that's one that we can intentionally seek out people who want to be sponsors of those clubs, staff members who want to be sponsored, to create safe places for kids to come together, whether they're LGBTQ identified or they're allies. And we have those groups at all of our secondary schools. And I, along with a couple of my DEI staff, visit those groups once a year, just to let them know that we love them, that we care for them, that they have a board who supports them. And it was interesting in my visits this year, because they all happened in this spring semester, kids are very in tune with what is going on nationally. And, I got questions like, well, Dr. Vitale, how can you protect us from what's going on nationally? And I'm very honest with kids about that. You leave the state of California, there are places where your freedoms and safety, I believe, are jeopardized. I feel that for my own self. Even in California, nothing's guaranteed, right? But so what I really try to focus on are the state laws that protect kids, and then, of course, locally, what we're doing as a district. But, so that's leading through action, right? So I meet with kids, I address their concerns, I tell them what we have locally in our school district. I share a little bit about my story, not a whole lot. Like, they want to know some stuff, but, I don't need to go into any detail. But they're mostly concerned about their future, which is what I'm mostly concerned about. And I'm very clear, I believe I've made it through the most difficult parts of my career and my maturation process. I say I'm an old lady who has lived in a shoe because I'm on the back end of things. Kids are on the very front end of things. So all of these issues are top of mind for them, because it is their life currently, and it is their future. And to not feel safe, to not feel cared for, to not feel like the world wants you, that's a really bad feeling. And the messages they're getting, Like, I feel as a kid, I just didn't get any messages except from my church, which was negative, but it wasn't as overt. Now I feel like it is overt. It is in your face constantly, constantly, constantly. And that's what kids are dealing with. So I think part of what we can do as leaders is to help kids deal with those real feelings that they're experiencing. I feel like I could go on, but I also feel like I'm talking too much. So I'm going to stop right there.
No, it's good. It's good. I
Yeah.
appreciate how you talked about conditions from all levels, right? You talked about California law, you talked about ed code, you talked about policies at the board level and practices and, you know, the rainbow clubs and being visible as staff. And, you know, and so I think there isn't just one way, right? There's not one path, right? There's multiple entryways into this, and it's so needed. So the fact that you've painted that picture for us, are really, you know, it's a really good roadmap for districts that are looking to do things, and hopefully they are.
Yes, yes. And I just want to say before I ask this final two-part question, so I'm telling you it's a two-part, so you can gear up for it. I've just really appreciated your transparency, your honesty, vulnerability, and all of the amazing gems that you've shared with us thus far. But here's our final question for you. So part one, what gives you hope as an LGBTQ plus educational leader right now? So in this moment, what gives you hope?
Right.
And then the second part is, what message, and I know you already started this a bit, but what message do you want to leave with the next generation of queer students and aspiring school leaders?
Yeah, so what gives me hope, those visits with kids and how in tune they are with the world and what's going on. Because I'm going to tell you, I wasn't that into, like, the middle school kids blew me away. And I was like, and I know they have access to information differently than we did I did when I was in middle school. So I think that makes a difference. But the fact that they are in tune, the fact that they already are comfortable to be in a meeting, you know, in their club that is the GSA. I think that takes so much courage, and they don't even see it as courage. They feel like, well, this is our safe space, and this is where we're figuring out who we are. And I'm, you know, some kids say, I'm not sure if I'm an ally or if I'm in the community, but I really like these other kids, and I want to be here, and I want to be part of this. I didn't have that courage as a middle school kid. I didn't have that courage as a high school kid. I don't even think I would have had that courage if there was a space for me. It certainly wasn't talked about in the 80s at all. But I don't even think that I would have, because it took me a very long time to even come out to my family. So that gives me hope. So somewhere, somehow, beyond the current federal legislation and policies and nonsense that's going on, they are getting affirming messages somewhere. So maybe it's from the school district and their teachers and the efforts that we've put in. It also could be from the community. It could be from their place of worship. It could be from their parents. It could be, you know, from other avenues that they have access to. So that's what gives me hope. And there was one high school that I visited, and these kids were active because they're high school kids. They were mobilizing. We have a Lead with the Pride here in Oceanside. It's called Lead with Pride. I'm sorry, it's called Pride by the Beach. Sorry, Axel Lead with Pride. It's called Pride by the Beach. And our North County LGBT Center puts it on, and they're located here in Oceanside. And we have a table in the kids area of Pride by the Beach, and our kids are the ones who staff that table. So when I went to the high school, this one particular high school, they were already talking about all the ways that they're going to help educate anyone who goes by their table on who they are, why they matter, how they can influence legislation, how they can influence policies here in Oceanside and the state and the national level to support who they are. And to just say, look, man, we're just kids trying to grow up, and here's how you can support us. It blew me away, again, because of their their proactivity, their willingness to organize and be an influence even at their young age. The message that I would give to leaders in our schools is start somewhere. Please start somewhere. The FAIR Act is over a decade old. If I recall, it was passed in 2010. It requires us to teach about LGBTQ people in history and their impact, that we existed, that we are part of the formulation of this state and of this country. So seeing ourselves in that curriculum, we all know how important that is for women to see themselves, people of color to see themselves. And it's important for LGBTQ people as well. And it's education code. I would say if you're in a place where you can influence board policy, so if you're a director, an assistant superintendent, a superintendent, look at your board policies. See when they were last updated on non-discrimination against students and non-discrimination against employees. See if those are updated. They've all been updated in the last couple of years, and that's a place that you can really start with that language piece. I think start somewhere. See if your web filters allow kids to go to the Human Rights Campaign and to the Trevor Project. So if they need help and they need resources, they can access those on their district computers in their district spaces. That's something else that you could potentially do. Start somewhere. Figure out what you can do. If you're a high school principal, do you have a GSA? There's a national organization that can help you form one. See if you can find a staff member who will lead that and give kids a safe space. I think those are very simple things, but start somewhere. Attend Lead with Pride. You'll get a bazillion ideas, and people are at all levels of the organization and all find ways to get this work started. It's a fabulous conference. It'll be the 5-year anniversary, which will be amazing. And I've never met anyone there who has walked away disappointed or not with the resources that they needed or with the network that they needed to help assist them with wherever they were with this work.
Yes, I love that. Start somewhere. Yeah. Start somewhere. And just to plug Lead with Pride, we are moving it to September 30th to August 2nd, 2026. That was definitely a request from some of our members. And so we are finding a location, but be on the lookout for that. And I definitely agree. It is an amazing conference to be at. So many good, good learning opportunities, not just for yourselves as educators, but resources for students. So please put that on your calendars. Thank you so much, Julie, for this amazing interview. We couldn't think of anyone else that we would have wanted on for this episode. And again, to continue to shine a light on on our focus on our LGBTQ plus communities, whether it's our students or staff. You gave us so many good nuggets.
Yes.
I think I'm going to have to replay this over and over again to make sure we include all of this in our work moving forward.
Right.
Thank you both. It was an honor. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Wow. Start somewhere. I love that. It reminds me of Dr. Better's just do it.
Just do it.
That's a Nike thing, but you know what I'm talking about. And then the affirming messages. I think that's just so important, right? When you just when all we want as humans is just to be seen
right
for who we are. I don't know why it's so hard.
It just is. All right. We got to go ahead and wrap. So let's start here, Dr. Noriega. So I know we have the Summer Leadership Institute coming up in the hot, great city, though, of Laverne. Do you want to speak a little bit about that?
Yes, June 23rd to the 27th. We know that you all are probably hiring, in the midst of hiring, maybe going to be having new people in their positions by that time. So save them a spot. It's going to be a cozy group and talk about like ratios in terms of team leaders to attendees. Definitely going to be on the smaller side this year. So we have a really great lineup. If I were a brand new principal, which I've coached many, I would definitely send my folks to our Summer Leadership Institute. So June 23rd to the 27th. And then can I do another plug?
Absolutely, go for it.
We started this LGBTQ plus network last year. So if you are interested in joining that network, please sign up. The link, I'm going to ask Gianna to put that in the chat for us, but please sign up. It's an opportunity to be in community. We have a few committees going in terms of advocacy, professional development, research, support for LGBTQ plus administrators. But it's an amazing space, right? And moving forward into this next year at conferences, we'll be creating these specific spaces too, as a means of support for our members. So sign up.
Sign up. Before we close out, Dr. Noriega, any final thoughts that you want to share with the people?
Be yourself. I love what Mary said to Dr. Vitale. You be you. So let's go with that. You be you.
Definitely be yourself. Get your rest. I'll say this. So I know you all heard Dr. Noriega say a name. Gianna is one of our producers. So it's not a random person that you don't see. But we will be back in 2 weeks. So please, when you're with us again, because we're not getting enough people in the chat, we want to talk to you all. So again, if you're watching us, please make sure you're signing into the chat so you can chat back with us. Even if you're watching the recording, please still sign in, give us your feedback, give us some questions, give us some thoughts. But again, we appreciate you for watching. Thank you for engaging in the Critically Conscious Classroom. We're about to head to this A's game in a bit, so we will see you in 2 weeks. Peace.
Peace.